Hello, Matthew Collins. Hi.
Right.
Don't laugh at me. We've just started. Um, Matthew's going to be giving the keynote at the Geug conference, and I just wondered if you'd introduce yourself firstly and tell me the sorts of things that you're doing with Google at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an archaeologist, and I'm a part of a number of projects, both a large international training network funded by the EU on slavery, and also an ERC project with Trinity College Dublin on parchment. And in both of those projects, we're using Google Docs very heavily, essentially as a way of sharing data. And in addition to that, we're then using Hangouts and other forms of communication just to knit the partners together. So for an example, within the slavery project, we actually have a Google Apps for Education account called Eurotask, and therefore all members of the project will have a Eurotask account. A lot of the students have actually got tablet computers, and it means that what we can do is actually chat together and just hold the network together. And then in terms of the Parchment project, that's a big data project. So there's a lot of genomics data, there's proteomics data within that project. What we're doing is we're actually sharing all the data together through Google Drives. Trinity College Dublin also has a Google Apps account, and so we can basically combine all the data together. And as a consequence of that, we've actually got rather a large number of documents shared, and I think it turns out we're having over 1.5 million documents shared between the various sites I collaborate with. And I guess in addition to that, the other thing that I find been really interesting with the Parchment project is been working a lot with historians, and I haven't worked as much with historians before. And we're beginning to kind of negotiate the ways that you write collaboratively together. So they find it really interesting to start using Google Docs first to write grant applications, and more recently to start actually authoring together. And the way in which they kind of lose their sole voice within authorship. To begin with, all of us think are quite nervous about editing other people's text. And as we've gone on more and more people are comfortable with the idea that you can simply edit away someone else's text, and you actually lose the obvious authorship of the document because it becomes a communal document. That's been really exciting.
Yeah, completely new challenges to your ego rather than about the technology.
Yeah, and you know, in the sciences it's not so unusual because we use large multi-author articles, but in the humanities it's very different. So I think that the Google Docs platform has been a really interesting experience for a number of people. I mean, we also use it a lot in teaching, and that's the other thing that, in fact, both in research and teaching, one of the things that we find very useful is the Google Plus communities. The reason for that is because, you know, in the real world you've got Facebook, and in the educational world, all the students have got Google accounts, and therefore they don't see Google Plus so much as a social network, whether or not Google wanted it to be such, but they see it as a way that they can communicate with us. And we found communities, I personally find it incredibly useful as a note-taking resource. So what if I find an interesting website or an interesting idea, I'll just stick that into a closed community, a private community. I think we have now about 7 or 8 of these around stable isotopes, dental calculus, parchment, and then some open ones such as one on ancient biomolecules, which is shared with all of my students and anyone else in the world that wants to share that. And what I found those useful for is I will just stick in these interesting websites and say interesting papers, and then people are free to comment on them. And with the closed ones, people comment quite a lot. The open ones, they don't tend to comment so much because, of course, the comments are then publicly accessible. So that's been a really interesting and useful addition to our research. And as I say, just it's a form of a brain dump for me. I just know that in my Parchment community will be all the stuff I find interesting about Parchment, be it a YouTube video or a research article or some stupid comment somebody's made about bizarre annotations in manuscripts.
Yeah. I mean, I find your use of communities interesting then, because you can actually sit with people and say, what we're doing now doesn't work, and everybody goes, yeah. And we need to change, and they go, yeah. And we go, so let's try this Google Plus community, which gets it out of the email, and that's where the problem is.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do that, you know, everybody reverts back to their own behaviour.
But that's what I like.
You crack that nut by almost doing it collaboratively with everyone, saying, we need to change this.
Yeah. No, that's what I like about communities, because it's completely asynchronous. It's just basically you're dumping things that you find interesting into this waste bin, which is the community, and everyone else that you share with then has access to that waste bin, and they can sort of shuffle through it. And if they find interesting things in it, they can then comment on those. And what I found is that, I mean, you know, as of just yesterday, a really interesting paper that came up looking at the way that the patterns of wood boring beetles is seen therefore in woodblock print. This was done by a biologist in University of Pennsylvania, Penn State, picked up by a parchment maker who's in the community. And the parchment makers found this paper and published it to the community. So, oh, that's really cool. I mean, it just comes out of the fact that everyone is using it as a kind of brain dump for interesting articles.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you cover in the keynote. And thanks for sharing this with us.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.